If tensions in the Middle East were not already at a high, the Iran-Pakistan spat have added dollops of flare-up in the region. Now, why are these two Muslim nations attacking each other? Why are some dragging India in the middle of this spat between these two countries? And what does this latest flare-up mean for the Middle East and for the world at large? Now, I have to unpack these questions. I have with me West Asia expert from New Delhi, Dr. Wael Awad. I have Iranian analyst Ehsan Sarfaranejad. He's in a city in Iran. We'll get to talk to him in just a bit. And Dr. Kabar Chima, Pakistan's noted security affairs expert. Thank you so much for joining us, all of you. This last 1 week has been chaotic, sirs. Iran has struck camps inside Pakistan's Balochistan province, and Islamabad has, of course, retaliated with its own attacks back on Iranian territory. Now, Pakistan and Iran at loggerheads in the middle of what is a huge war raging in the Middle East already in terms of the Gaza war. This seems like an out of syllabus thing which suddenly happened, but the trouble between these two nations have been simmering for quite some time. And I will start with you, Dr. Kabachima, and I want you to give us a sense of what exactly is happening. Just a context to our viewers. What is the problem between Iran and Pakistan?
Well, frankly speaking, there is no problem between Pakistan and Iran, but it seems that the theological state of Iran, they are under pressure from the Muslim world, where they do have their proxies, and they are under pressure from within Iran because they have made tall claims in terms of protecting the interests of Iran and their proxies in the region. But what has happened in Gaza, they have failed to stop Israel in one way or the other. They couldn't gather the international support, even couldn't mobilize the Muslim world in that matter. So obviously they are under pressure. That is one thing. So what has happened is that there was a suicide attack within Iran. So they blame that the groups like Jaish Al-Adl, they did it, and they are hiding in Pakistan. So they did attack in those groups, and the Iranian foreign minister did say that we have attacked the Iranian terrorists inside Pakistan. So Pakistan has a security agreement of 2013 with Iran, which says that we should work together in case of such kind of threats. The Iran violated Pakistan's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and in response to that, Pakistan did attack in Iran to the militant organizations which are threatening Pakistan, like Baloch Liberation Army and Baloch Liberation Front. Bilaterally, we do not have any issues, but in terms of there is a loss of confidence between both the countries, Pakistan and Iran, and because the Iranian regime is under pressure because they have failed to deliver to the promises which they made to the proxies, which they made to the many in the region, that they will resolve the situation in Gaza.
Ehsan Sarfaranejad, do you agree with that assessment? Because that's a very Pakistani way of looking at it. We'd like to understand the Iranian point of view.
Well, the situation with Pakistan is not to be conflated with what is taking place in Gaza. The Gaza situation and the revenge for that, the actions that are needed to be taken in order to maybe signal Iran's commitment to the resistance groups in the entire region are the actions that are needed to be taken against Mossad and the Takfiri terrorist groups inside Syria, because they said that the Gaza war is the perfect opportunity for them to start what they were pursuing during 2013 war against Syria. So that's a separate thing. What we saw, the actions taken, the measures taken by Iranian side to bomb Jaish Al-Adl headquarters in Pakistan was actually something that that was taken because of the terror attack that happened 2 months ago, which resulted in the martyrdom of 11 police officers, patrol guards, border patrols, and these people were killed, unfortunately. People talk about the pressure that the Iranian side is under, and to a certain degree, that's true, because since last year's, riots, protests, whatever you want to call it, if you believe in general that it was, protests based on grievances and everything, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is that in the province of Balochistan, we saw a series of assassinations. I think those concerns were transferred, and it was made clear to the Pakistani government that there are these assassinations that are taking place in the province of Balochistan, Sistan and Baluchistan. But I think that they were mostly ignored by the Pakistani government. So I would say that there are two things here that I would disagree on. The first thing is the pressure that Iran is under, which is completely different. And by the way, Iran launched 4 payback missiles on the Takfiri terrorist groups in Syria. Iran launched a series of missiles on Mossad headquarters, which resulted in the killing of 4 Mossad agents and a series of their collaborators and agents within the region. So that's a separate thing. This attack is another thing, which is mostly related to the events that are taking place since the last year's armed insurgency in southeast Iran was increased due to the overall protests that are taking place all over Iran.
I hear you, and at this point, let me bring in Dr. Wael Awad, because these are two different points of views, but largely converging into the fact that things between Iran and Pakistan are not really good because of the Balochistan region in between the two nations. Actually, not in between, Balochistan area, which parts of it are with Iran, parts of it with Afghanistan, parts of it with Pakistan. Dr. Awad, in your sense, this Balochistan flare-up, what do you the regions flare up? Pakistan, Iran, having their different takes, supporting different insurgent groups, militant groups within this region is the real reason it seems that the back and forth is happening. Your take on how this is playing out?
Thank you very much. I think I'll play the devil advocate, since you are having 2 persons from one Pakistan and one from Iran. The fact of the matter is that we cannot see the Iranian-Pakistani relation from the prism of the Gaza or the Israeli carnage on the Palestinian in West Bank, in Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, and on Gaza. We have to see it from the flawless of the international security order that we have been witnessing for years. The relation between Iran and Pakistan has been very strong, very cordial, and I think Iran was the first country to recognize Pakistan when the partition took place. So having said that, they have built up a good relation between the two countries, and Pakistan never considered Iran to be its enemy or there is an adversary. In the challenge for Pakistan, we all know it's India, and the security weakness is the spine of Afghanistan, where Pakistan is more concerned. But the fact here is that these skirmish taking place in the border between Iran and Pakistan, which is sharing border of almost 950 kilometers, has been witnessing lots of attacks. And in fact, this Jaish Al-Adl, which has been the head of the Jaish Al-Adl, Abdul Malik Riji, was captured by Iran in 2009, and he was executed because he was collaborating with the CIA, with the MI6 of and the Mossad. And now we have seen that there are lots of sabotage against Iran from different quarters, not because Iran doing the proxies. This is not a question of proxies in the region, which maybe it sounds like that Iran is evoking this kind of attack. There is a project in the Middle East and West Asia this project is to annihilate the whole of Palestine at the cost of the Palestinians. No two-state solutions, and that has to be one-state solution. So Iran has created, ever since the Iranian Revolution, what is known as the axis of resistance, which is extended from Iran to Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine. And that is where the American and the Western country, which are trying to bring the Abraham Accord into the fold by having a normal relation with Israel at the cost of the Palestinian cause, have tried to break down this one. So we have seen that after the failure of the nuclear deal with Iran, lots of insurgency covert operation has been taking place. The Mossad have already made lots of assassination of Iranian inside. They have already been training the Kurdish Liberation Army in Kurdistan. They are already, America is sheltering more than 55,000 terrorists in the northeastern part of Syria, where they're still controlling, according to UN agencies, not our figure. So they have been still under the American umbrella. And we know, all of us know, that more than 10,000 Al-Qaeda and Daesh was siphoned from Syria, Raqqa, into Afghanistan before the American leave Afghanistan. So therefore, there is a problem here. There is a terrorism. Maybe Balochistan is a geopolitically important area, and that's what brings us to the wider conflict of the region. There is a conflict of interest between the United States at one hand and China on the other hand. So China is trying to create a corridor through the Balochistan, and ever since the 2000s, we have seen lots of activities, and the Baluchis are paying the price, because the Pakistanis, according to the Balochistan vision, Aditi, that they don't see that the Pakistani are sharing their natural resources equally with the people of Balochistan, which is less than 15 million people, but it's a huge territorial area, which is great importance. So now, after the corridor, the economic corridor of China, Afghanistan, Pakistan coming into focus, the Americans are not happy to see that this kind of arrangement has been taking place. Therefore, there is a countermeasure by the United States, and there is lots of activity. And let's remember, and I think our friend from Pakistan will tell us, that there has been a coordination with the coalition with the United States, and they have been attacking lots of tribal area belt of Afghanistan by the American drones, and they have killed lots of innocent people. I'm not justifying what the Iranian did, nor I'm justifying what the Pakistani did. But I think as long as the skirmish took place and everybody tit-for-tat has been happening, they are not attacking each's capital. I think it's a time to sit down across the table and find a political solution. Because of recent development, we have noticed that Iranian and the Pakistanis have been coordinating militarily, intelligently, and also on the political view. So their views were converging together. I don't see any reason why they should go for any all-out war against each other.
Wow, you've summed up the situation from historical perspective and the entire geopolitical situation. You've talked about a lot of things, and I would have broken it down into bits and then taken it forward, but that's fine. It's all about perspective, I think, and the biggest perspective, and I'll come to you, Dr. Chima, with this is that Pakistan and Iran have had very close ties, as Dr. Awad has been pointing out. They've had historically very close ties. Iran was the first country to recognize Pakistan, but in the middle of all of this, when Pakistan was formed, I think there was at some point even talk of a joint confederation, working as a confederation with both countries sort of having similar armies, similar military. Even that, there was a conversation about that at some point in history. But today, to attacking each other and missile strikes inside each other's territories, how much of a role do you think? Who do you think is to blame, and why this cannot be resolved via dialogue?
Well, I think the hawks in Iran needs to be blamed for this. The hawks, particularly in the Iranian military, and the hawks in the ulemas, they have thought that.
But look, if you look at it from Iran's perspective, there was an attack on a police station in that province. 11 Iranian police officers were killed 2 months ago. They are just hitting back to protect their own. It's in self-defense. You can't allow people to just come and indiscriminately kill police officers in your territory.
Well, no country is allowed in any circumstances to violate the sovereignty, whatever the circumstances are. Iran and Pakistan have mechanisms in place. All channels of communications are open. So in any way, Iran is not allowed to target inside Pakistan, whatever the circumstances are. No matter what has happened, Iran is not allowed to do this. And for this matter, the regime in Iran, particularly the ulamas and the military, they have done it and they have paid the price. So we have restored the deterrence. We have told the Iranians by taking, if the Iranian do not want to talk via the ambassador, we sent back the Iranian ambassador. We asked the Pakistani ambassador to come back. We did strike militarily in Iran to give a message. If you don't want to talk through the ambassador, there should not be ambassador. And there is a tit for tat what the Iranians have done. So the hawks in Iran, they have basically, they are under pressure and they have done it. So whatever, and we know for that matter that the politicians in Iran, they are under stress. They have to defend everything what the IRGC and the ulama do. Majority of the time, the politicians do not control the entire narrative. And for all these proxies in the region, for example, Dr. Shankar was in Iran for what? And the message that came from Dr. Shankar was that the energy and economic security is the most vital interest of India. So Dr. Shankar was telling Iranians, stop Houthis, they should not attack the Indian merchant vessels. And if you remember, the Americans asked the Indians that the Iranians were behind that. So the question is not about Iran and its the interest groups who are the question is that Iran has to stop. They should not violate the sovereignty of other countries. If there is something that needs to be spoken, the Dr. Jaishankar met with the leadership in Iran. He addressed the concerns with Prime Minister Modi, asked him to speak to the Iranians. And the next time, I believe, if the Indian merchant vessel will be attacked by the Houthis or anyone, the Indians will respond. So the question is that Iran shall stop targeting their friends. Otherwise, India is a big military, Pakistan is a big military, we can respond. And I think the Iranians wanted to breach the security, wanted to breach the deterrence. We restored the deterrence, and we will not let Iran to do this even in future for that matter. But there is one thing. Iran and Pakistan has depoliticized trade. So the trade is going on, borders are open, things are normal. The ambassadors have spoken, the foreign office, the foreign ministers have spoken. I think that's a good move. But if someone will realize, or if someone will believe that they can coerce Pakistan like Syria, Iraq, that will not happen.
I'll take this. I'll take your answer in two parts because I have two questions, and one of them I'm going to take with Ehsan Safarajad. Ehsan, you are looking, the main thing that seems to be coming out from what Dr. Chima is saying, that the hawks in Iran are to blame. You did not talk to us. All channels of communication are open. You decided to attack. What I heard you saying earlier was slightly different, that you were trying to get Pakistan for months to respond, but they did not, and therefore you attacked. And the second part, Dr. Chima, what you said was about bringing up Dr. Jaishankar and India's name, and I'm going to come to that question, but I'll take that up a bit later. Ehsan, the first part.
Well, what I don't really understand from what I really tried to understand from what our friend in Pakistan was saying, it was that he was constantly bringing up that Iran was under pressure because of what's taking place between Gaza and Israel. So I don't know what he tried to insinuate, that Pakistan is now suddenly on the side of Israel. How does the two relate, actually? Is he trying to insinuate that Iran, by targeting Pakistan, tried to send a signal to the resistance groups that he's fighting Israel? Does that mean that people, the Muslim community within the region, believe that Pakistan is on the side of Israel? I didn't quite follow what that was being tried to say in that part. There are two different things that are taking place in Iran. One is the call from the people to the politician that they should do something to help our friends in Gaza. That's one thing. The other thing is that since last year's series of riots, there have been many assassinations taking place in the province of Sistan and Baluchistan. This region has become more and more unstable. And we have seen a series of assassinations, not just one, but a series of assassinations. I believe that during this year, aside from all the recent years that Iran has been sending messages, in diplomatic format to the Pakistani colleagues of them in order to do something about Balochistan liberation, not Balochistan Liberation Front, but do something about Jaish Al-Adl and other Takfiri terrorist groups that come and, violate Iran's sovereignty, and they, engage in these acts of terrorism. We have been telling them to do something about this, but unfortunately, all of the requests of Iran have been ignored. Again, these are two different things, not to be conflated with one another.
Yes.
Yeah. So here we go on the second part. If Iran didn't have a good relationship with Pakistan, it would have already go and follow up with a lawsuit that it must, in my opinion, follow now, because it seems that Iran's patience is being misunderstood by Pakistan and our Pakistani friends and people like him. $18 billion in project forfeit penalty should be paid to Iran because Pakistan fails to follow with building the, what we call the peace pipeline that goes from Iran to Pakistan to India. But Pakistan refuses to do so because the policies of Pakistan, to a certain degree, is determined by the Pakistani army, which in turn takes its orders from United States. The sovereignty of country doesn't really come from, avoiding people from physically entering your country. You might take orders from people from outside of your country. There might be coup d'etats. Many people call what happened to Mr. Imran Khan, the former prime minister of Pakistan, an act of coup d'etat. So, coming here, sitting here and listening to all these things and, hearing some of the things that are being said really, really makes me confused, from the angles which the Pakistanis are coming from this. And by the way, when we're talking about a terrorist group that was being attacked, we saw the drone footage that IRGC published. And IRGC, because of the fact that throughout the years, it had to, prove itself that its strikes have been against military targets, not civilian targets. They actually published drone footage and proved that a terrorist base was targeted. Such thing hasn't been seen from the Pakistani side. Unfortunately, we have no video footage that would prove to us that there were militants in there. We have seen the casualty that are actually non-Iranians. They're not Iranians. They are refugees that are based on their, their surname, most likely, and by some of the resources that I have seen, are actually Pakistani, meaning that Pakistan in its airstrike killed its own citizens, not citizen nationals, who have immigrated to Iran. So, again, this is a very complicated situation. I'm trying my best, in order to convey the legitimate concern from the Iranian side. But even from here, we not being diplomats, we not being any governmental official, I sense this feeling of hospitality. I'm sorry, not hospitality, hostility from our Pakistani friend, which I'm really confused, because we're just analysts and we should set aside our feelings and emotions when we're trying to analyze the situation.
And I would concur with you, and if Dr. Chima was still with us, I would tell him but unfortunately he had to leave after that outburst, which really seems to be what Pakistan all is about, because right now they are struggling on every front, social, economic, political, and yet they've taken on this very anti-Iran stand. They've decided to go all rebuttal. We don't know what next. Do you think is going to happen? Is Iran going to stand down now, or is what do you see? How do you see Iran responding now?
Look, there is one thing about Iranians. We are known for our patience, and we actually are patient to an extent that our enemies many times accuse us of, not doing anything, of cowardice sometimes even, because again we are very patient in all the statements that are put out by the Iranian armed forces. You can see that they say we are the ones that decide when we are going to take actions, retaliatory actions against our enemies, right? So this patience, the fact that many people around the world call Iranians chess players, the political brass of Iran are being depicted as like these chess players. I believe that the patience of the Iranian political brass isn't running out by just a few strikes and things like that. And they will actually find some sort of diplomatic solution, since there is major community in Pakistan that are friendly towards Iran. We have
Not just that,
people
I think after the attack, even Pakistan, after the counter attack, even Pakistan had reached out and called them closest allies, and that they will resolve things and brothers, and that sort of a statement, which was a conciliatory statement. So one hopes that will happen. But let me come to you, Dr. Awad, and talk to you about the second part of what Mr. Chiva said. Suddenly there's a lot of people in Pakistan are dragging India into this entire conversation, and Dr. Jaishankar's visit, the Indian External Affairs Minister's visit to Iran, and then the attack on Pakistan. Those are two separate issues which are being conflated together.
I think it's separate issues. I wish Dr. Kamar is there with us, because I needed to say that Pakistan is testing its own poison they have cooked, because they have made the jihadi culture in Pakistan during the Afghanistan issue. You remember during the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, where they have finances, where all the Mujahideen have come to Pakistan, opened the full door, Zia al-Haq, for everybody to come, and they have been used as a rented state for the Western world to topple the USSR. This is nobody can deny in history. Now Pakistan says that they are victim of terrorism. If they are victim of terrorism, why there are still terrorist group active in your territories? That is a cross-border terrorism, should be dealt with firmly and by any country. And that is why Pakistan saying now I'm a victim of terrorism. There have been thousands of people have been killed in the northern part of Pakistan, and in the Baluch area and the tribal belt by the American. And everybody knows that that was with the cooperation with the intelligence of ISI. So why now you are people saying you are still having active terrorist organization in your territories and you are not dealing with them? This is one of the issues. The second issue, which should be addressed by the Pakistani, is the Baluchi suffering. That is for sure. The suffering of the Balochistan and the minorities have given an upper hand for a vested interest nation to intervene, not only in the court of Balochistan, Aditi, even for the Kurd in the region, have been intervening by those vested nations to sabotage those stability in the country. So Pakistan has to address its own concern before they talk about the other. Definitely, my own judgment on this, I would consider it a strategic mistake by Iran to attack at this stage Pakistan. This is my own take. I'm not. Why? Because they could have tackled the issues still. But Iran is very patient. Yes, they have been patiently dealing. But when they struck in Syria and in Kurdish area, we all know that these are the center of terrorism, where they have been trained by the Mossad and the ISI, the CIA, and they wanted to sabotage Iran. They've been killing, as we know. And even the Jaish Al-Adl have also claimed responsibility for most of the attack. 15 attacks took place inside Iran and there is. And mind you, there is an agreement between Iran and Pakistan of attacking the border area, and they cross with the knowledge of the countries that they have been doing so for years, but they keep quiet because they say, okay, that we can settle it. But at the end of the day, Baluchis are part of Iran, part of Afghanistan, part of Pakistan, even part of UAE and Oman. So they need to address the suffering and distribute equally the resources for the people. If they don't do it, you're giving a bigger chance for vested interest nation to use you again, because Pakistan integrity is at risk at this moment. They cannot keep on accusing people of doing sabotaging their internal affairs. Politically, militarily, they are facing lots of problems. So I think these are issues has to be addressed regionally, because after the jihadi culture in Afghanistan, we have noticed that American spent $1 trillion to double the Taliban. After $1 trillion, they brought back the Taliban. They left lots of terrorist organizations in the area and they ran away in an open, and they say, okay, regional players should settle the issues here. But how to settle the issues? If you don't address terrorism, then again, we come to square one. We have nothing in common to share, except everybody use terrorism as a freedom fighter to achieve their own goals.
Problems in that area, whether it's the US, whether it's Pakistan, whether it's Iran, whether it's Israel, whether it's Palestine, the problems are plenty. The problems are plenty. The issues are plenty. How do we resolve them? And now there was a Gaza war, which was already happening. And now Iran is, of course, chosen this time in the middle of a burning Middle East to also respond to Iraq, retaliate against Iraq, retaliate with airstrikes in Syria, and of course now in Pakistan. So it's not the fires are touching the entire region. Do you see an end to this anytime soon, Ehsan? And what sort of a prediction would you give for the situation in the Middle East right now?
Before I answer that, I like to say why Iran chose this specific time in order to carry out these strikes. Apart from the terrorist attack on police officers, which I mentioned, you might remember that 1 or 2 weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago, a terrorist attack took place in the city of Kerman, and roughly around 100 people were murdered, many others were injured. This act, which was the responsibility of which was taken by Daesh, was Israel's aid and Israelis' agent and Israelis' basically signature all around it. So Iran does this. Iran waits for an opportunity. Iran does not lash out on other countries without any need, to the extent that I believe when we first talked about when Iran is going to actually take a part in what's taking place between Israel and Gaza, there were this question that was constantly being repeated by not just you, but different people whom I was being interviewed by. They were saying, when is Iran going to act? Well, Iran, from the very first time, said that we're not going to take actions unless our territorial integrity would be violated by Israel. And this is exactly what happened. So that's why Iran chose this specific time in order to carry out these strikes. So that's the first thing. Vis-a-vis the second thing, unfortunately, the future of the region is very gleam. I believe that even some of the pessimist analysts whom people might listen to wouldn't assume that the war in Gaza reached its 100 days, especially since Israel usually fights these wars in short period of time. This is one of the longest wars, if not the longest war that they have actually fought in. So vis-a-vis that, we can see that the combat is still ongoing. The situation in the region is still really, really unstable. The entirety of the region has become like a powder keg. And we have seen the Yemenis, Ansarullah, actually targeting two ships. I believe yesterday, 19th of January, but it's based on whatever time zone that you're in, it might be yesterday or today. They actually carried out, strikes against two ships. So I'm seeing the conflict actually spreading all around the Middle East, and this is one thing. But I wouldn't presume that the tension between Iran and Pakistan, both being Muslim countries, both having relatively good relations with one another, both of their political class being sort of sensitive in the way that they want to treat the other side. I believe that this conflict will take care of itself. It's not going to spiral out of control. But vis-a-vis the other conflict, we will see more escalation probably very soon.
Yeah, no conflict is good, but you're saying that the Iran and Pakistan one, because of the historical ties between the two countries, can be wrapped up and brought under control sooner than the Gaza conflict, the conflict over Gaza between Hamas and Israel. But having said that, it may be remiss of me not to say that with the Iran striking Pakistan and the tensions between these two nations, the reality of this war had come a little closer home as far as India is concerned, because it was suddenly right next to our borders. So that's a little relief when you're saying that that is going to sort of sort itself out, given the ties between these two nations. But let's hope the Gaza war also, because there are larger repercussions for the entire world because of the situation that is continuously on the boil in the Middle East. But thank you so much for joining us. I've taken more time than I should have, but thanks for all that perspective to our viewers. And thank you, viewers, for watching this broadcast. We will keep coming back to you with more. Stay tuned to Hindustan Times.